So this question is, what's the difference between an annulment and a divorce? So what's the difference between an annulment and a divorce? Comes up from time to time. People, I think, are led to believe that an annulment is way more common than they are. They're actually very rare and typically not something that most people would ever be doing. But the difference between an annulment and a divorce, and first of all, by the way, I'm Brent Boyer, attorney at Adam, Divorce and Family Law. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. All your dreams could come true if you subscribe. Who knows? Or like the video. Don't forget to do that too. But yes, annulment versus a divorce. So the idea with an annulment is you're asking a court to declare that your marriage was never valid in the first place. So you're saying this was not a valid marriage. We aren't married legally, and I need this declared through the court so that I don't have this issue of this person is married to me or was married to me and now we're getting divorced. So that's when you would be looking at an annulment. It's pretty unusual. It's things like bigamy, like let's say you're married to someone else and then you get married again without getting divorced first. That second marriage would not be valid and you'd have the ability to do an annulment, or your wife could file for an annulment. Or if you're married to someone that's underage, legal age of marriage is 16, so you're married to someone that's under 16, or there's kind of unusual circumstances of fraud, duress sort of things. They're not what you would think. They're really extreme kind of cases, but in general, those are possible. Or you marry someone that's very close blood relationship, closer than a first cousin, that's invalid and you could have an annulment declared. But in general, you're not going to find that you'll be doing an annulment. They are less than 1% of the ending of marriages are annulments. Most of the time you just file for a divorce. One of the reasons for that is that with an annulment, you have to actually prove, you have to establish things, you have to establish the elements of an annulment. So you have to establish in your court hearing the reasons for the annulment and actually prove something. With a divorce, you don't have to prove anything. If you ask for a divorce, you get one. There's no requirement, there's no laws, there's no things you have to follow, there's no elements of the case that have to be proven for a divorce. You ask for a divorce, it's absolute, you get it. Whereas an annulment, you have to actually prove these different things. So you could do a hearing and a judge could say, yeah, I don't feel like you've met the laws that are required to grant an annulment, so I'm not going to grant it. And then it was all just kind of a waste of time. So you don't want to be dealing with that if you can avoid it. Easier, more reasonable, typical scenario would be to just file for a divorce. But in general, that's the difference between an annulment and a divorce. The annulment, you're asking that the marriage be declared invalid in the first place. It was never a valid marriage from the beginning, from its inception. A divorce, there was a legal marriage, or maybe there was or wasn't, but you're just asking for it to be ended, for there to be a divorce, which gets granted automatically. There's no stopping someone from filing a divorce. If they want a divorce, they get one every time. So that's in general the idea. From what you're looking at. So there might be some reasons you feel like, well, we never lived together, it was a short-term marriage, or those things typically don't lead to a situation where you would file for an annulment. They're more likely to end up just being something that ends in a divorce, which is fine. It's actually a simpler process anyways, and not something you have to really worry about. So I hope that helps. Thanks.